If you haven't been living under a rock for the past 18 years, you probably know what Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is. It's the extreme skateboarding video game franchise that recently has been under quite a bit of shit. So rather than complaining about Pro Skater 5 some more, I'm gonna take you back to 1999 when the first Tony Hawk's game came out. The game that revolutionized extreme sports in both gaming and real life. Back in 1998, Act of Fucking Vision approached Neversoft, a small company at the time, to develop a PS1 game called Apocalypse. While Neversoft was in development of Apocalypse, Activision also had them build a prototype of a skateboarding game to capitalize on the popularity of the sport at the time. The game originally had nothing to do with the Caulkman until later in development. The game came out on August 31st of 1999, and it was a hit. Once you start up the game, you're treated to an awesome skating montage, featuring numerous pro skaters who star in the game. Now, if you're planning to play this game, play the PS1 version. The Nintendo 64 version may have quicker loading times, but not only does it not have any FMV, meaning no real skating videos, but the soundtrack was also massacred to fit on the cartridges, since Nintendo were, and still are, stuck in the past, and used a cartridge-based system for the 64. Remember, a Nintendo 64 cartridge could hold around 67 megabytes at maximum, and those cartridges with the large space were fucking expensive, especially compared to the smaller space cartridges. The game contained 10 songs, and the average song takes up about 3 megabytes of space. That would mean that the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack took up to 30 megabytes of space. And that's not even including the space that the rest of the game took up. However, the entire Nintendo 64 game is 12 megabytes. 12 megabytes! What the fuck is this insanity? Whew. Now, while you do have modes such as Free Skate and 2-player, we're here for Career Mode, which is essentially the campaign as you cool kids would call it. Now, while yes, you do obviously get to play as Tony, you also get a selection of 9 other characters to play as, but I don't know who the fuck any of these people are. Their names aren't on the box, I don't give a shit about them. This is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, not Bucky Lassek's Pro Skater. I'm so sorry, that was so rude, please forgive my transgression. Another neat thing is that you get all this trivial information about each skater. None of this actually matters in the game, but it's still some pretty cool insight into each of the skaters featured in the game. Elisa Steamer, age, undisclosed? What? Also, each character does have differing stats, so yes, each character does play at least somewhat differently. The characters aren't just for cosmetics. What's also pretty neat is that each skater has their own selection of different boards that you unlock throughout playing the game. There are 9 levels in the game. All the levels are pretty average local areas that probably remind you of real life. Stuff like a school, a mall, a downtown city, an abandoned warehouse, and heaven. Each level drops you in, giving you 2 minutes to complete as many objectives as possible out of the 5 objectives for each level. However, every level only has one unique objective, as they all share the same 4 objectives. Those being getting 2 high scores, collecting the letters to the word skate, and collecting the secret VHS tape hidden somewhere in the level. Each time you complete an objective, you get a single point, those points being used to unlock levels and skateboards. The points, for some odd reason, are represented by VHS tapes. Why is this? Well, YouTuber Rebel Taxi theorized that the game takes place in a dystopian future where art and religion are outlawed, selling for thousands on the black market. That makes no sense, but it's the only theory that makes any sense. Wait, what? Anyways, collect as many tapes as you can to progress throughout the game. And trust me, there are quite a bit of tapes to collect. Now, the game starts off really easy, like so easy to the point that I can complete all 5 objectives in level 1 in one run. Let's see, I think that line A should work just fine. The game does begin to progressively get harder though, to the point that the difficulty makes it impossible for me to progress. I've never made it to the final level before, and still can't. However, it's okay, I'm not missing out on much. It's only Area 51, nothing too crazy. So, what's so great about this game anyways? Well, the simple idea of an open roaming skating game was extremely new for the time it was released. Most skating games at the time put you on a linear path, so believe it or not, this crap was revolutionary. Despite it being amazing for the time, it doesn't hold up too well today, though. For one, the controls feel really sloppy in this game. I feel like I lack control over my skater most of the time, especially when I'm trying to land on a ramp. Like, look at this. I'm not doing this. This is just how the game decided my character should land by default. I'm not rotating her at all. The game is also incredibly slow, and the speed system is pretty iffy. Sometimes you go unbelievably slow, and other times you could get random bursts of speed that seem to come out of nowhere. Rarely ever do you find yourself at a decent speed. Also, while rotating your character standing still, your camera doesn't rotate with you until you start moving, which makes lining up your character to do something extremely difficult. However, enough with the negatives. How about the good things? Well, the levels in the game are really good. Sure, there's some duds, but for the most part, these levels are super well designed and memorable, to the point that I can sketch out a mapping of quite a few of them just from memory. My favorites are probably Warehouse, mostly because of its simplicity and nostalgia factor, Mall for how well designed it and its objectives are, and Downtown for its chill nighttime atmosphere. One thing that I don't like about Downtown, however, is this murderous taxi. Seriously, this fucker won't stop for you. And he always comes out of nowhere. And I mean it, he seriously comes out of nowhere, because the draw distance in this level is so poor you can hardly see 5 feet in front of you. You gotta watch out for those dangerous taxis, they're known to strike at the most unexpected times. The soundtrack is also absolutely kick-ass, which is a big reason why the N64 version lacking most of it makes it so inferior. The Tony Hawk's franchise as a whole has introduced me to so much music and so many bands. My music taste wouldn't be the same as it is now if it weren't for these games. The trick system is also pretty neat. There are a few main tricks, those being flip tricks, which you do once and they give you a certain amount of points, grab tricks, which you can hold for as long as possible to build up points, grinding, which you have to balance and rack up points over time, and wall rides, which rack up points too, but don't last for too long. Grinding is kind of difficult, as there is no balance bar or anything to tell you how balanced you are. You have to base it completely off of character animation and how far they're leaning to the left or right. Also, if you manage to combine a series of tricks together, which in this franchise of games is referred to as a combination, you get a multiplier that goes up 1 for each trick in the combo, so combos are the best way to get points. Now, there are some strange levels here that don't really fit with the rest of the game. Mainly Mall and Downhill Jam, which is a terrible level and a blemish on an already sorta acne-infested game. Essentially, rather than being a wide area for you to explore, these two levels are long and linear, and they end the run once you get to the bottom of them. I don't like that system of level, but I still love Mall. There's also competition levels, where you have to compete in 3 different heats and get the highest score you can. However, I swear to God, I could never get higher than a bronze medal in these. I just don't see how it's possible. Now, while this game is pretty good, would I suggest playing it? Well, I mean, I guess. Although I'd suggest one of the later games in the franchise much more, this is still a decent game, and one that I very much enjoy playing, even after all these years, and all these games. While it is pretty limited, it did set the groundwork for the future Tony Hawk's games to improve and expand upon, and trust me, they did. Quite a bit. But we're still far off from many of those later games. I've got plenty more Tony Hawk games to talk about in the future, so stay tuned for more of these Tony Hawk's review retrospects. I'm Scootakip, and I am not at all the coolest kid on the block.